Hello everyone, this is Michael Cheek again with mikesguitarlessons.com. Remember again, if you want to email me, the email address is feedback@mikesguitarlessons.com. And let's go ahead and get started with this video. This one is basically going to just be teaching you how to read tablature. Tablature, for those of you who haven't learned how to read it yet, basically it's just an easy way to write music notation. Instead of reading notes the way normal music notation is done, it's just a little more simple. It's not quite as good as far as rhythms are concerned, but it's really a really fast way to write down music and a lot easier to get the hang of than standard notation. Now, I've got tab written up here. You'll hear that a lot if you get on the internet and you're looking for tablature. You'll see it abbreviated tab a lot. So all that is tablature. And I want to basically explain this layout for you right here. You'll notice I've got these 6 lines going across the whiteboard here. What those are just the guitar strings. And you'll see tablature like that on the internet, or in some songbooks you'll see music notation, and underneath it you'll also see the tablature for the same thing. So that represents the 6 guitar strings, but it's not like you think it would be. You've got the guitar strings physically on the guitar. You've got the thickest one on top down to the skinniest one on bottom. Okay? But that's not how tab is written. It's actually flipped upside down. So this thickest string here is actually the bottom string down here. This low E string right here. Okay? So it's flipped upside down. So basically you've got your thickest string here, the thick E string. Then you've got the A string, the D string, the G string, the B, and finally the skinny E string. Okay, so it's flipped upside down. So this string here is this string here. The A string here on the whiteboard is the A string here. Okay, and so forth. So just remember that's flipped upside down, and with a little practice you'll get used to that idea. Now, I have this little line down here just as a kind of a measure break. A lot of times, most of the time really, tablature, if you're just reading off the internet, won't be broken up into actual equal measures. But myself when I write it, and other people too, tend to break the different measures up into, say maybe you've got a riff that repeats itself. I'll write the riff in one measure, and then I'll put a break there, so it's a good stopping place for you to practice and repeat that. So it's just kind of broken up into sections like that. If you read it out of a songbook that actually has music notation as well, then there's a good chance that it'll actually be broken up into measures, whether the time be 4/4 or 3/4, just depending on what you're reading. Now, just to explain some of the symbols that you'll find on tablature and how to read it, this is how tablature is meant to be written. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm going to write the numbers that I'm writing. Like I'm going to put a 7 right there. I'll just put 7, 9, and then a 10. Sometimes, if you're reading this on the internet from maybe like a free guitar tab website or something like that, you'll see the numbers actually into the lines here, but I don't want to write them into them because it'll mess up. This is just dry erase, and I'll have to erase it. So I wrote a 7, a 9, and a 10 right there. I know that's a little hard to see. Let me write that a little bigger. I'll do it on this string. 7, 9, and a 10. Okay? Now, what that's telling me, that has nothing to do with fingers, obviously. We don't have that many fingers. When you see a number written on tablature like that, these stand for frets. So there's 2 things you got to watch here. What frets am I looking at? On this first one, I'm looking at the 7th fret, and now I have to figure out what string I'm supposed to play the 7th fret on. Well, it's resting on that B string. It's either going to be resting on top of that line, or it's going to be down to where the line is going through the actual number. And so that tells me 7th fret on the B string. So what I have to do here is find my B string. Well, I know the 2nd string here is the B string. Okay? So I know that's the string I want to play on. I've got to go all the way to the 7th fret. So I've got 3rd fret here, 5th fret here, 7th fret right here. So 7th fret on the B string, and that's the note I'm supposed to play. Okay? my next one says 9 on the B string, so I'm going to play 9th fret on the B string. So from the 7th fret, I just went up 1, and now I'll play that one, 9th fret. Then I have 10, still on the B string, same string. So I'm going to go up 1 fret. There you go, so you can see it better. And that's the 10th fret, okay? So that's basically how you read notes on tablature, okay? Now I do want to get to something else here, some of the symbols that you'll be using. Let me clean that up a little bit. Now, as far as some of the symbols that you'll, well actually let's take care of chords first. These were single notes here, but I'd actually like to play a chord. So let me actually take out that 7-2. Let's say you wanted to play just a power chord, okay? I think I'm going to do a power chord that has my first finger playing that, and then maybe we've got our next note is in the 5th fret. If you'll notice, these two notes are right on top of each other. That means we play them at the same time, just like in standard music notation. So I've got to play the 3rd fret on the thick E string, and I've got to play the 5th fret on the A string. Okay? You notice it doesn't really tell me what fingers to use. In tablature, most of the time when you're looking at it, it's not going to tell you what fingers to use. That's one of its limitations. You can have ways around it where you have an extra line telling you what fingers to use, but most tablature you look up won't have that. So you're just going to have to know what fingers you use, or just experiment a little bit and figure out which fingers you're most comfortable using. Okay, so we've got 3rd fret on the E string. I'm going to put my guitar up here. 3rd fret on the E string. Well, my thick E string is this one right here, so I'm going to go to the 3rd fret. And I've also got 5th fret on the A string, so I'm going to put my 3rd finger in the 5th fret on the A string. That's the chord that I play. I strum them at the same time since they're right on top of each other, and that's it. I've got both of those notes, and that's how I play it. Now, you know that you only want to play those notes because I just don't have anything on these strings. If I wanted you to play something on those strings but not press any fingers down, then I would have an open on those, and you'd play those notes open. Okay? But in this case, I didn't want you to, so I just didn't have those there. Okay? So that's how you play a chord. You can have a chord like this that's just a power chord, or you can have, even a full open position, maybe a D chord. That'll be something like, let me see, 2, 3, 2, open. And I usually like to have open on that one. Okay? I've got a D chord right there. It doesn't tell me what fingers to use, but I've got 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open and open. I have nothing on this string, so I'm just going to mute that one. So what that translates to is my D chord. Okay? I already know what fingers I'm supposed to use. You can figure it out when you're reading tablature, but that's basically how a chord is written. Okay? Now we want to get to some of the symbols that are used in tablature. There's only a few of them, really, but they can be a little confusing. Let's take, for instance, the slide. Okay? I'm going to keep this towards the bottom of the neck of the guitar so you can see what I'm playing. Let's say I want to go on the G. I want to go from the, let's say 3rd fret to 5th fret. Sorry for the bad handwriting. There we go. Okay? Well, if I just want to play those notes, then I could just put that. I just pluck both of them, and that's what I do. I would just play 3 to 5. Okay? And I pluck both of those notes. But if I want to slide, I'm going to put that in there. What that means is I pluck that note, and then with the same finger, while the note is still ringing, I slide up to the 5th fret without plucking it again. So what that looks like is this. Now I'm going to pluck with my little first finger here so you can see me actually pluck it. I'm going to slide from here to here and slide it. So that's how a slide is written. Okay? If I'm going from, let's say, 5 to 3, say I've got a 3 back here. That's pretty awful handwriting, I know, but you get the idea. I have the 5 and then I go back to a 3. That would just mean I'm starting on the 5 and sliding back, okay? And that's why I angle that line from left to right, high then low. When I'm going up, it's low then high as you go from left to right. Because you read tablature from left to right. You don't worry about up and down. You read left from right, okay? So to make that a little clearer, if I have something looking like this, here we go. Let's say I had a 3rd fret here, then 2nd fret, that. Okay. I don't worry about where these fall up and down the strings. I'm just strictly reading from left to right. So as I go from the left side right, whatever comes next is what I play next. So the order that I would play these in is this 3rd fret on the A string, then 2nd fret on the D string. Then I don't go to the 2 on the G, I go to the 1 because it's further to the left of that one. So I go 3rd on the A, 2nd on the D, 1st on the B, 2nd on the G, then 3rd on the B. Okay? All right. Now, let's say I don't want to do a slide, but I want to go from the 2nd fret to the 4th on the D string, but it's not a slide, it's a hammer. Okay? This is how that's usually written. Okay? Kind of like a little bridge that goes over from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret on the D string. So what that is, I have one of my fingers, usually is going to be your 1st finger, and the 2nd fret of the D string. I'm going to pluck that note, and then without re-plucking the string, I'm just going to hammer this finger down hard enough to where the next note comes out. Like that. Okay? So that's how that works. That's just called a hammer-on. Okay? Let's say, let's take this 2nd fret out right here. Let's say I was coming from a 6 to a 4 on the D string. Now I'm going backwards. I'm going from a higher fret to a lower fret. This symbol stays the same, but you have to pay attention to which note is higher. I'm going from a higher note to a lower one. So that's going to look like this. I'm going to put that 6th fret on the D string down first. So 6th fret on the D string. Let me change my camera a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and get my 1st finger ready to play the 4th fret on the D string because I'm going 6 to 4. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck that note. I would normally pluck it way back by the body, but this is just so you can see it. Pluck this note, and then this finger is going to pull off fast enough to where this note comes out without me re-plucking it. So I just pluck it once, and I get both notes. Okay? That is a pull-off. You can actually have multiple pull-offs and hammer-ons. Okay? Again, sorry for the handwriting, but I'm still on the D string. Now I'm going 6-4, 6-4. When you start repeating a whole lot of these, it's called a trill. And sometimes you'll see them list them out like that, or sometimes they'll just do it a couple times and write trill under it. But this is basically what that is. I'm doing the same notes here, but I'm only going to pluck it once again. Okay? And I'm going to keep the notes going just by my hammers and pull-offs. So I'm going to pluck it once and then okay? And then I just repeat it as many times as I'm supposed to. I've only got 2 times here, but you can make it as many times as you want. Okay? So that's what a trill is. Trill is spelled T-R-I-L-L. by the way, in case you see it written in a book somewhere. Okay, now we got through our slides, our hammer-ons, our hammer-offs, our trills, our chords. Now we just have bends and vibratos left. Okay, let's say I'm on the, let's say 4th fret of the G string, okay? When you have long notes, and they don't have to be especially really long, but a lot of times they are, and you have long notes, the notes sometimes will sound better if you'll vibrato it. Now that's a pretty, basically a wiggly line right there. What that's telling me to do though is shake that string a little bit, and this is kind of what it is. I'm going to go to that note, that's 4th fret on the G string. Okay, so that's where I'm at. Now, when I play that note, I'm not just going to play it and let it ring. I'm going to shake the string. So instead of just leaving it like this, okay, instead of just doing that, I'm actually going to shake that string a little bit. This is what I mean by that. Okay, I'm not really trying to shake the whole guitar neck. That's just kind of a result of the way I'm bending the string. Okay, you just want that note to shake a little bit. This is not really a lesson over the technique of vibrato. It's just to show you what that symbol means. Okay? Now, so that is a vibrato, and that's how it'll be written. There's another one we have to worry about. Let's say you see that same note there, 4th fret, but then you see an up arrow. Make that a little darker. And then you see a down arrow. Okay? What that is a bend. You might already know what a bend is, but you might not know what it'll look like in a song. Sometimes the arrows look a little different, but that's basically what you'll see. What this is telling me is I want to play that 4th fret on the G string, but I want to bend the string up, and then I want to let it back down. So it's going to look like this. Okay, I'll get a little closer to the camera so you can see. Okay, and that's basically all I'm doing. Sometimes you'll see it with the up arrow and no down arrow. What that means typically is you're going to pluck that note and bend it up, but then let the note stop at the top, like that. And you stop the note, and then you can let the string back down when it's not ringing anymore. Okay? On the other hand, sometimes you'll see the string or the note, but you won't see an up arrow. You'll just see a down arrow like that. Make that a little darker again. Okay? If you see something like that, that basically means before you pluck that note, you're going to bend that string up. Okay? So before I pluck it, I go ahead and bend the string up. Then I pluck it and bend it down. Okay? Alright. Now there are maybe some that I'm forgetting, but I think I've got everything that you need to remember for tablature. One of the other things that you could worry about is basically how far to bend a string. Sometimes, and I did leave this out, but sometimes, let's say 4th fret again, and you'll have a up and then a down arrow. And you'll see somewhere around it, you'll see half, like that, if you can see that. I'll make it bigger. It's usually pretty small. But you'll see a half symbol, or I'll just write it big over here, or a quarter symbol, or just a 1. Okay? So you could have a half, or you have a quarter, a whole, or a half symbol there. Okay? Those are, if it's right next to a bend like that, those are just telling you how far to bend the note. If it says 1/4 like that, that's about the smallest. That just means you're going to bend it just a little bit. Okay, and that's it. that means you're going to bend it, but not even far enough to make it sound like this note up here. This note right here, that's the half. So if you go that far, when it says a quarter, then that's too far. You just want to go just a little bit. On the other hand, if you see a half, that means that this note should sound like the very next fret up on the same string. So this note should sound like this note once you bend it at its highest. Okay, so sound like that. Okay. On the other hand, if you see a 1 next to it, or you might see a W for whole, as a matter of fact too, that just means a whole step. So that means you're going to bend this note enough to make it sound like 2 frets higher. So since I'm playing in the 4th fret here on the G string, it should sound like the 6th fret on the G string. Okay? Should sound like that. Okay? Those are just the different amounts that you can bend a string. And you'll typically see either a quarter, a half, or a whole. So this is the smallest, a little bigger, and a little bigger. And sometimes you'll see bigger than that, but these are typically what you'll see. And really, most of the time it's either half or a whole. Okay, so remember, if you don't see the numbers right there, sometimes you'll see an H, that stands for half, or for the whole step, you'll see a W. And it'll be usually right above, right below the bent note. Okay? Well, that was a pretty long lesson, but I wanted to get all that in, so I hope you understand everything. If you have any questions, again, you can email me at feedback@mikesguitarlessons.com, and thanks for watching.